Coraline skipped along a quiet beach. The sand felt soft like powdered sugar under her bare feet. She had bright blue hair tied in a messy bun and wore overalls covered in paint splatters. A mischievous grin never left her face. The sun painted the sky in shades of orange and pink. The ocean whispered secrets to the shore. Coraline spotted something unusual half buried in the sand. It was a spiral shell glowing with a soft, pearly light. She picked it up. Its surface was smooth and cool. She held the shell to her ear. A tiny voice whispered, "I wish I could fly like a seagull." Coraline giggled. She found another shell, this one shaped like a star. It whispered, "I wish I had a pet dragon named Sparky." Coraline, with wide, curious eyes, began collecting every glowing shell she could find. Her pail filled with whispering shells. Each one held a forgotten dream. One wished for a castle made of candy. Another wished to talk to squirrels. Coraline sat on a driftwood log, listening to the tiny, forgotten wishes. The sun began to set, casting a golden glow across the water. Suddenly, a huge wave crashed onto the shore. It was much bigger than the others. The wave swept over Coraline and her pail of shells. Whoosh! The water pulled the shells back into the ocean. The whispers grew louder. They swirled together into a shimmering vocal tide. The dreams were free. Coraline gasped. Her eyes widened in panic. The forgotten dreams were mixing up reality. This was a big problem. She had to get them back before the world became a very confusing, very silly place. A man walking his dog suddenly sprouted bright pink wings. He flapped them awkwardly, hovering a few inches off the ground. He looked very surprised. His little poodle, now named Sparky, started puffing tiny smoke rings. Coraline knew this was her fault. She had to fix it. How do you catch a dream that wants to be free? Especially a dream about a pet dragon. Coraline looked out at the ocean. The whispers were now floating away in glowing bottles, bobbing on the waves. She needed a plan, and she needed one fast. Coraline spotted a small, rickety rowboat tied to a wooden post. Perfect. She untied the rope, jumped in, and started paddling furiously toward the floating dream bottles. Her expression was one of pure determination. The sky was now a deep purple. The dream bottles glowed like fireflies on the water. The first bottle she grabbed whispered, "I wish my teddy bear could give real hugs." Coraline uncorked it. A shimmering wisp of light flew out and zipped back toward the town. She hoped it found the right teddy bear, one down, a million to go. This was harder than she thought. She rode for what felt like hours. The air grew colder. In the distance, a tall lighthouse beam cut through the darkness. The whispers seemed to be drawn to it. Coraline's arms ached. Her brow was furrowed in concentration. She followed the trail of glowing bottles. A bottle floated by, and inside, a tiny voice wished for spaghetti to rain from the sky. Coraline grabbed it just in time. The world did not need a spaghetti storm. She imagined slipping on noodles. The thought made her paddle faster. She had to reach that lighthouse. The lighthouse stood on a tiny, rocky island. It wasn't a normal lighthouse. Voices echoed from its windows, a chorus of forgotten wishes. Coraline tied her boat to a rock and scrambled up the slippery stairs. The lighthouse door was old and heavy. She pushed it open with all her might. Inside, the whispers were a whirlwind of light and sound. They swirled around the giant lighthouse lamp. Coraline looked up in awe, her mouth slightly open. The light pulsed with the energy of 1,000 dreams. It was beautiful but chaotic. At the top of the spiraling staircase, she found an enormous ancient conch shell resting on a pedestal. It hummed with a powerful, quiet energy. It felt different from the small shells on the beach. Coraline realized this must be the heart of the whispers, the place where dreams wait. The man with the pink wings flew past the window, looking slightly panicked. Coraline knew what she had to do. She took a deep breath. This was her big moment. She lifted the giant conch shell. It was surprisingly light. Holding it high, she thought about her own forgotten dream. She once wished she could paint pictures that came to life. She focused on that memory. She remembered the feeling of holding her first paintbrush. The conch shell began to glow brighter. A warm, calming light spread through the room. The swirling whispers slowed down. They seemed to be listening. The whispers began to flow into the conch shell. One by one, the dream of flying and the wish for a dragon returned. The desire for a hugging teddy bear and a spaghetti storm all found their way back. The whirlwind of light calmed into a gentle, swirling glow inside the conch. Coraline placed the shell back on its pedestal. The lighthouse grew quiet. The light returned to its steady, silent beam. The dreams were safe again. They were not gone, just waiting. Coraline walked back to her boat. The sky was turning a soft gray. The man on the beach was walking normally again. His poodle sniffed at a crab. The world was back to its old self. Coraline smiled. She knew the dreams were still there, tucked away in the lighthouse of voices. They were waiting for someone to remember them. She looked at her own hands, still smudged with paint. Maybe she would go home and paint a picture. Maybe she would paint a seagull soaring high above the ocean. Thanks for joining us on this magical adventure. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Good night, little one.